Alright, let's talk about that dragon. I went to see the movie yesterday, as of when this video is being recorded, the 9th of June. It was a pre-premiere. The release date is different from country to country, so it might not be out in your country yet, but it was in mine. I see a lot of reviews popping up on YouTube that is like out of theater reaction and review. Like, you don't have the time to process what you just witnessed when you're just out of the theaters. I was like, okay, I need time to think this through before I can make a proper statement and like collect my thoughts about it. So there are gonna be spoilers in my overall review. I'm gonna like put a warning of when the spoilers start, although most of you probably don't care about them. And you know the story, you know, it's more or less the same movie, only with a few small changes. But if you wanna be kept in the dark, look out for that little warning. You'll know when it's coming. If I overall had to summarize the experience, then I felt nothing. It was hollow and empty. A rehashed version of something greater. Just recycled garbage. Pointless. Meaningless. I mean, all live actions are. That seems a bit harsh, but I don't know. When I came out, I was like, I didn't really have any strong feelings one way or another. And then I had time to process it, and then I have some like points I want to get across. I didn't make a script for this, but I did put some notes down on what my feelings were. But in order to explain where I'm standing when it comes to How to Train Your Dragon, it's like it's a religion to me. Not in the sense that I worship it, but in the sense that I know it from the beginning to the ending, frame by frame. Pretty much. I watched the movie dozens of times, as I'm sure a lot of you have, and I've edited with the material maybe 100 times, maybe even 1,000 times for my channel. I breathe this movie, so I know every single second what's going to happen through it. So of course, when I go to watch a live remake, the pace is going to be off for me. I'm gonna notice every little subtle change. It's like a little alarm going off in my head, like, this is not how it's supposed to be, this is wrong. Even though that's the whole point of a live action, it's supposed to be a fresh, breath of air. I think I'm just gonna go into spoiler territory right away. I don't think there's any point in me like being like, I liked it like this, but I can't really tell you how I liked it. I'm just gonna jump right into it because it doesn't make sense what I'm saying otherwise. So if you don't want spoilers, this is the alarm. Do not continue. Spoilers are coming. Do not continue. So I put a list of like what I like and what I don't like. And I don't know if I should start with the things I didn't like and then end with the things I liked. Maybe that's best, because otherwise we end on kind of like a dull note and people are like, oh, that's just kind of depressing. So I'm gonna start with the things I didn't like at all. The runtime is longer than the original one, which shouldn't really be bad, but for me, it felt like it was dragging on. I was actually waiting for the movie to be over several times because I felt like they're really padding it with stuff. And again, minor things. It's not something that completely disjoints it. It's just, it was a bit boring. And that leads me to saying that the pacing of the scenes and the line delivery was off to me. And again, I know the lines inside out. It's just the way they were delivered. Sometimes I was like, that kind of falls flat when you say it like that. That kind of sounds, that doesn't hold the power that it's supposed to have when you say it like that. So to me, the pacing was a big issue. I think things were rushed. Really important scenes were rushed to fit in these new kind of elements and new small scenes. The whole segment with bonding with Toothless, I feel was really rushed and like jumbled and like cut up, and pieces that were important were removed. One thing that was completely destroyed was Toothless' iconic smile. We all know it. We know how it happens. Toothless gives Hiccup the fish, Hiccup smiles, Toothless looks at him and then mimics what Hiccup is doing. In the live action, Toothless just does it. Toothless just smiles out of nowhere. Hiccup doesn't smile. Toothless just looks at him and starts smiling. What? Why? Why would you do this? Dean? Dean, why? Why would you do that? Why? The live action expects you to have watched the original. And I don't think that should ever be a premise for a remake. You should never assume, oh, they've watched the original, they don't need to know that in this one. No, this should be a story that can stand for itself, and people should be able to watch it as a standalone piece. Not a puzzle where several pieces are missing because, oh, we saw that in this other puzzle. No. No, very bad. The next thing is Nicole Parker. Is that her name? I think so. Astrid's. Her actor. No, her facial expressions and the mannerism was just not there. I think her line delivery was actually quite good, but everything else was just missing. I want to show you this comparison of when she meets Toothless from the animated and then from the live action. Let's take a look.
Why would you do that?
That's for the lies. And that's for everything else.
Why would you do that?
That's for the lies. And that's for everything else.
She's afraid. She's afraid. Toothless, you're scared? Astrid, Toothless.
Him?
The Night Fury. Astrid?
In the animated version, she is clearly disturbed by the situation, but she's still holding her posture and she's still trying to be confident, even though it's a big shock for her. We have an expression, we have the body language, while the live action version, she's just kind of staring at the dragon. Completely just... There's no thought behind those eyes. There's no activity whatsoever. And I felt that in several of the scenes that she just couldn't pull off any expression here other than a little insulted, maybe like, that's the most we got out of her. Otherwise it was just... it was just not there. And Astrid is a pretty big character. And she just didn't... That's just no. And I'm not gonna blame it just on the actor, because that's also the direction from the director, Dean, again. It could be that. It's not necessarily her, so I don't want to be hating on her at all. There was also some added lines where Astrid is actually really malicious and just like crossing a line of borderline, no, that's uncomfortable. She's like threatening Hiccup that she wanna be chief one day and she's got her eye on his house and stuff like that. I was like, yeah, Astrid is supposed to be kind of unlikable in the beginning, but that's going a bit far, isn't it? They cut the scene with the terrible terror after the test drive scene where Toothless and Hiccup land and they're eating fish and the terrible terrors come up on them and steal some of the fish, and Toothless shoots the terrible terror in the throat and it takes a lot of damage. And Hiccup says,
Not so fireproof on the inside, are you?
so we both get the knowledge that dragons have fireproof skin and that they're vulnerable on the inside. Two really key elements that are kind of important, that dragon skin is fireproof. That wasn't really addressed anywhere in the live action. You're just kind of supposed to, oh yeah, I guess that makes sense. But no, that's not really a given, I don't feel like. And without that scene in the last climax with the Red Death, how does Hiccup know that he can defeat the Red Death by shooting it on the inside? That's the whole gimmick. That's the whole point. Dean! Why? Why would you do that? They cut this scene, which is really important. How else would he, in the heat of battle, figure out that, oh yeah, let's make it explode from the inside because they're vulnerable and soft on the inside? Like, yeah, if you think about it, maybe it makes sense that we are weak internally instead of externally, but it's not addressed anywhere. He just kind of makes it up on the fly and like, yeah, let's just do that. The terrible terror scene was like the key to unlocking that final climax. They have this term for the Viking that does the best in the training. And when they finally get to defeat the monster's nightmare, the winner gets to kill the monster's nightmare. They call it top slayer. Why do we need a term to put on that? Like, oh, you won top slayer. Oh, I'm gonna be top slayer. They were so emphasizing on it, and I was like, nobody in that ring even slayed a dragon. Why would it be called top slayer? Why? Like, I didn't like it. It just felt like to put a brand on that, to have like a title on that, to make that a thing for some reason. I don't think that was necessary. It's just the person that did best in training gets to kill the actual dragon. It's not like, who gets to be top slayer? Nobody slayed any dragons. They were just training with them. I just thought that was unnecessary and really stupid, honestly. That is overall what I disliked about the movie. The pacing thing is huge for me. It really ruins a lot about the experience. So now I'm gonna move on to the things that I did like, so we can end on a lighter note. Toothless fin, tail fin, in the original when he loses it, it's just kind of gone. It's just like it pooped out of existence. It's really a drastic change, like why would it just pop off like that? In this movie there's actually remnant from the missing tail fin. We see a little bone piece and some skin sticking out when Hiccup is putting on the prosthetic tail. We can tell that there was a fin here and it kind of got torn off. It's not scar tissue, but you can see that it was ripped off and he still has a little bit of it. And I thought that was really cool. That's something I was missing in the original, because it vanished out of existence and that was a bit stupid. So I really like that about the tail fin. Toothless was also more verbal towards Hiccup. And I know that might sound weird, like what's he talking about? No, he was making more noise, he was making more sound and a bigger array of noise. Different growls and roars and grunts. They added some new stuff to the sound mix. At one point he even sounded like a horse. So that was interesting. But it gave Toothless an extra layer of intelligence, because Toothless can't speak, but he can make noise and he can interact, and his body language, that's how he communicates. And it just made him seem more intelligent, which I like, because Night Furies are supposed to be the smartest of all dragons, and it just added more weight to him. One scene that I really liked was during the rescue on Red Death Island, or Dragon Island, during the Red Death battle, when Toothless is on the ship and Hiccup jumps down to save him, and Toothless' response is just like whimpering and growling and making noise at Hiccup, like he's so relieved to see him. You can really feel the weight of that feeling in him because he's so verbal about it. And I thought that worked really well, and it wasn't overdone, so it wasn't annoying. It was just, it added much more to him, more depth to him, and made him seem a little more intelligent, and I really liked that. The dragon designs, the redesigns, the realistic designs, I think they were cool. I loved the Monster's Nightmare. I think they did amazing on that one. Because it's one of those dragons that I thought were cool, but the face was kind of stupid looking. So they really fixed that with this realistic looking one. It's just a really cool dragon. And I like the Grunkle design as well. The Detonata I'm still a bit iffy with. It's kind of creepy spooky to me. And Toothless looks, well, close to Toothless, but just a little more realistic and pretty amazing, honestly. And the Hideous Silverback also I think is a step up, really cool. Mason Thames, I think his name is. Oh no, is that the right name? The fangirls will kill me if I don't get this right. Yes, Mason Thames did a good job portraying Hiccup. I feel like he was kind of warming up to it. In the beginning, the first like 20 minutes, I was kind of iffy, like, is this gonna work? But then I think he really warmed up to it and embodied the character, so to speak, and it was his own take on it, but it was still very Hiccup-ish, so I think he did really good on it. And he had a big array of emotions, and his his voice was somewhat similar to Hiccup without really being it. No one can, have Jay Baruchel's voice, but just in the way he was delivering the lines, sometimes they really hit the mark. And I thought I was surprised because I didn't have any high hopes for him really, but I think he really pulled that off. The movie was true to the original story, and this is the first live action that DreamWorks is attempting, and I think that's a big deal. They did stay true to the story. The things that were changed weren't really impacting the turnout of the story, and that's something that's been a problem with the Disney live action remakes. Not that we should compare them necessarily, but you're kind of going there because obviously DreamWorks is not doing this, or Universal is not doing this if they weren't inspired by Disney. They're obviously jumping that bandwagon to make the money. And Disney always changes something and they just make it worse and they ruin the source material. It's terrible, honestly. But they didn't do that with this one, so you could say that it's the same story and it's pointless, but at least they didn't do it at dishonor. They were staying true to the story. The final battle against the Red Death was cool. It was more, it was more brutal, I would say. Toothless was like shooting holes in the wings of the Red Death, and you could see these holes actually burning, and then Hiccup flying through them on Toothless around the Red Death. It looked crazy. It was really cool. And it made more sense than when the Red Death was going down, that the wings were just tearing. They were completely tearing, not just the holes opening, they were just getting ripped apart. And that was really neat, I think, and they just captured the energy of that battle really well, up in the clouds where you can't see what's going on, and Toothless is shooting the Red Death, and it gets so desperate it just shoots fire all around it. They did a good job on that, so I love that scene. That was a big highlight, and that was nice because that was close to the end, so you kind of got a little boost there because that was epic. So I think that's really all I'm gonna say. I had a really terrible movie experience, really cinema experience. I was in an IMAX theater and it was just so cramped and the seats were terrible and people were behaving weirdly. People with their phone, someone turned their flash on to look for their stuff, and I was like, what's going on? Just piss off, man. It really ruined my mood, and there were so many people, and then the air quality just plummeted because there were so many people in the theater. And I was just like, I want to go home. I want to not be here. But then I just try to focus on the movie and watch it. And I think, because I didn't really like the experience, but I think that also heavily impacted how I was feeling. So I don't think it was necessarily bad. I kind of want to watch it in a different setting at some point. I think the remakes and stuff, it's a joke, and it's sad that originality is almost dead, and this is what we get. But at the same time, it is the second golden age of How to Train Your Dragon, if we will let it be, and that could be something special. It's never gonna be the same, so don't expect it to be the same. And I'm also talking to myself right now, so maybe we should just be happy that we got this. That this is something that exists, because the alternative is just not having anything with How to Train Your Dragon. So maybe this is cool. Maybe this is something to appreciate. Who knows? I'm not gonna ramble more about it. I still need to think. I have a lot of thinking to do, but I want to make a review while it was still fresh in my mind, and it's kind of a mixed bag, honestly. You tell me what you think, and if you did watch it, actually do tell me what you think. I would like to hear your thoughts and what your thought process was and what your experience was with the movie. And if you want, stick around, subscribe for more dragon videos. Always free to leave suggestions in the comment section on video ideas. Maybe I'll do them. I want to make the content that you want to watch, so that's always welcome and greatly appreciated. Thank you so much for spending time with me today. Hopefully we'll meet again. Until then, take care of yourself. So long.